Welcome back to the channel. You are not going to believe this story. The South African government is absolutely furious, and I mean steaming, over the relocation of Afrikaners to the United States under refugee status. You'd think they'd be relieved that some of their own citizens are finding a way out of the chaos, but nope. They're mad because the truth is being exposed on a global stage. This is not just about politics. This is about dignity, safety, and survival. Make sure you stick around until the end, because this one's going to make your blood boil. And don't forget, join the channel membership. Support the channel by donating via Super Thanks, and let the advertisements run to at least 30 seconds to help the channel generate some revenue. Let's jump right into it. So the South African government is having a public meltdown again. This time because 54 white Afrikaners have been granted refugee status by the United States under an executive order signed by President Donald Trump. Yes, you heard that right. Refugee status. In a world where being a refugee is typically reserved for people fleeing war zones and political persecution, the US has made a bold, very public statement. Afrikaners are being targeted, and it's time someone took them seriously. Now, here's the kicker. South Africa's official reaction. They called the US move politically motivated. Oh, how convenient! Suddenly, when it's about protecting white South Africans, particularly Afrikaners, it's politically motivated, unfounded, inaccurate. Where was this concern for human dignity when those same citizens were living under daily threat, working farmland under the looming specter of violence, and feeling like strangers in their own country? Let's not sugarcoat it. The Afrikaners, descendants of Dutch and French settlers, have been vilified by their own government for years now. Sure, they once ran the apartheid regime. No one is denying history. But how long must the descendants of that era be punished for the sins of their great-grandfathers? How long will this political virtue, signaling masquerade as justice, while actual people live in fear? Let's talk about crime. The South African government claims there's no evidence that any racial group is being specifically targeted. Seriously? Tell that to the dozens of farm families who've buried their loved ones after brutal home invasions. Tell that to the families whose children sleep with weapons under their pillows. No evidence? That's either willful blindness or gaslighting on an international scale. But hey, what's a few dead farmers when you've got an international reputation to polish? And here comes the best part. South Africa said they wouldn't block Afrikaners from leaving. Well, thank you so much for your benevolence. How generous of you to let people escape when they no longer feel safe in the land of their birth. But they want the US to vet them thoroughly and make sure they have no criminal charges. Classic deflection tactic. Make it look like the problem isn't systemic, but individual. How original. Elon Musk, who knows a thing or two about growing up in South Africa, has gone on record calling it a genocide against white farmers. You can feel the establishment media clutching their pearls at that word, but tell me, what else do you call an organized, systematic silencing, marginalization, and in some cases, killing of a demographic group? Don't like the word? Maybe fix the reality instead of attacking the vocabulary. Oh, and let's not ignore the numbers. After the executive order was signed in February 2025, over 70,000 white South Africans expressed interest in the US refugee program. 70,000! That's not a migration, that's an exodus. That's people saying, we've had enough. Meanwhile, the ANC government clutches its pearls and cries foul over so-called discrimination. If things were so peachy in South Africa, why would tens of thousands of people be scrambling for the exit? The US Department of State isn't dumb. They know how to assess real danger. These are people being resettled under P1 refugee status, usually reserved for urgent humanitarian cases. And here's the cherry on top. These Afrikaners are being welcomed by high-ranking officials from the Departments of State and Homeland Security. You don't get that kind of red carpet treatment unless something serious is going on. You think that's a photo op? That's a geopolitical statement. And here comes the sarcasm, because I can't help it. The South African government says it's ironic that the US is accepting Afrikaners, one of the most economically privileged groups, while refusing asylum to people from war-torn areas. Let's break this down. First, you can't keep pointing to privilege while turning a blind eye to persecution. Just because someone owns a piece of farmland doesn't mean they're safe. Second, the US isn't saying Afrikaners are more deserving than refugees from, say, Syria or the DRC. They're saying persecution is persecution. It doesn't discriminate, and neither should we. Let's not forget how the ANC-led government tried to spin land expropriation without compensation as a noble corrective. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. When you rip land away from people based on their skin color, that's not justice, that's revenge. And when someone calls it out, like Trump or Musk, suddenly they're the problem. Not the policies, not the forced displacement, not the killings, just the people who dare to say, this is wrong. What's also telling is the divide within the Afrikaner community itself. While groups like AfroForum and Orania refuse the refugee offer, staying to fight for their culture and legacy, thousands of individuals are voting with their feet. You have to respect both stances. One says, we'll rebuild here. The other says, we deserve better somewhere else. But both agree on one thing: something is deeply broken in South Africa. Here's a little historical irony for you. The very same government that once fought for liberation and equality is now being called out for oppression and discrimination. The torch has changed hands, but the fire is still burning. And it's the ordinary Afrikaner, the farmer, the school teacher, the shop owner, who's getting scorched. The elite don't feel the heat, the people do. And now we're at a crossroads. This refugee resettlement isn't just a policy shift, it's a global wake-up call. For years, the suffering of Afrikaners has been dismissed, ignored, or politicized. Now, the world is watching. The message is clear. If you won't protect your people, someone else will. So, what do you think? Is this a bold humanitarian move by the United States? Or is it, as the South African government claims, just political theatre? Personally, I think the proof is in the fear, the bodies, and the desperation of those trying to get out. If this video struck a chord, make sure you hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear the truth. Join the channel membership, support the channel by donating via Super Thanks, and please allow the advertisements on this video to play fully, or at least for 30 seconds. It helps us keep going and telling stories the mainstream is too scared to touch. Until next time, stay sharp, stay informed, and stay human.